California has been in extended drought since 2011. And though recent heavy storms have elevated surface water levels, underground water supplies are still critically low. But drought in California isn't rare. In fact, it's part of California's normal precipitation cycle. So what makes this drought so challenging? Scientists have a better understanding of California's drought cycle than ever before, and this one is one of the most well-documented droughts that we've had. What has held us back from finding a solution? Lack of unity between different California authorities has prevented the proper addressment of the drought and led to finger-pointing.
As said by both the federal and state governments, if you were to move this bill forward into law, you would create chaos.
But this deflection of blame has only put off addressing the problem. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, also known as JPL, is the leader in data collection for California's current drought. JPL focuses on data retrieved from atmospheric rivers, a phenomenon significant to California's water levels. The GRACE satellite system, launched in 2002, allows scientists to see the monthly fluctuations in groundwater levels. GRACE imaging technology shows that there has been a steady decrease in groundwater from 1962 to 2014. Cumulative groundwater depletion in California's Central Valley is indicated by this graph. Considering the difficult nature of tackling ever-intensifying drought, we wondered what possible programs were adopted by LADWP and MWD to combat it.
We have found that the rebate program was really an effective for changing kind of people's minds about it. It's not necessarily the most effective as far as savings on water. Because the most effective on saving on water is usually the different appliance rebates and stuff that we offer. However, that doesn't really change people's ideas. Once they buy a new washing machine that's more efficient, they're done thinking about it. They just use it and they just go on with their day. Once they buy a toilet or it actually doesn't really apply to shower heads, because once they buy a shower head, a lot of times they're disappointed in the pressure. But like once they buy a new toilet that uses lower water pressure, or many of the other fixtures that we offer rebates on, they kind of forget about it. And it doesn't really make them be an active part of it. So we've found that the programs that we have that require an active participation and get them engaged are going to be the most effective.
And the good news doesn't stop there. MWD discussed with some other students about the steps they are taking to supply Southern California with water.
The infrastructure related to supplying water to LA is regulated by the MWD.
Yeah, so the Metropolitan Water District imports water from the Colorado River via the Colorado River Aqueduct, which is a 242-mile long aqueduct that brings water from the Colorado River here down to Southern California. We also obtain water through the State Water Project, which takes water from Northern California, from an area called the Bay Delta, and brings it down via the California Aqueduct. And so we help oversee those two systems. We maintain pipes and reservoirs and pumping plants, treatment plants. But once the water comes to the region, to Southern California, and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power buys that water from us, then they're responsible for all the infrastructure of taking it from there and getting it to your homes.
Water-saving innovations have not been confined to just the water districts. Farmers in the Central Valley, for instance, are ensuring that they do all they can to save precious water.
Call now subsurface drip, so we actually will run irrigation tubing underground about 16 inches, so that way when the plants grow, their roots go down to that point, and that's where we're putting the water. We're not putting any water on top of the soil, so that way it doesn't get eaten up by the sun. You know, when you put water out in the pool, the sun will start eating up that water, and you have to continue to add water to it to keep the pool full. So when we're doing it underground, the sun never hits that, so that uses less water. There's other things, you know, on our farm specifically, we'll go through and we have these, what we call laser level. We'll come out and we'll scrape the fields perfectly level, perfectly flat, and with a certain degree of slope, so that way we can run the water across the field faster and make sure that we get the right amount of penetration into the soil to keep those crops wet. what that does is then we can utilize a little bit less water by running that water to the end of the field a little bit quicker. So there's a bunch of different technologies that farmers have implemented, and there's always new ones coming out every day. You know, things that we're looking at now is with those subsurface drip systems, we're taking drones and taking pictures of the fields to see, okay, where are the spots that need water, and then we'll only turn on those spots to get those spots wet, and then let the other ones wait a little bit longer, so that way we're minimizing the amount of water that we're using.
In addition to drones, there's some interesting technology in soil moisture monitoring where you go and you put a piece of equipment out into a field and you can check in real time the soil conditions, how dry they are, how wet they are, how much water was applied in that root zone, and a grower can do that from a computer, a smartphone, whatever. They have real time technology all the time, and they're constantly monitoring the amount of water that they're using and that they need.
While innovations by water authorities and farmers throughout the state have led to some headway on the drought, the groundwater crisis remains prominent. Groups throughout the state are focused on maintaining the water supply for themselves or their immediate constituents. This has led to backbiting between the different interest groups.
Yogurts, the ice cream, all that good stuff that we enjoy on a day-to-day basis, that's food and fiber for us to wear, ends up coming from a farm at some point. So as long as we understand and realize that, hey, farms aren't just these villains. Unfortunately with the drought, everybody said that farms are the villains. Farms use 80% of the water in the state. Well, 80% of the developed water. When you look at the fact that 10% of the water goes to urban, 40% of the water goes to farms, and the rest of it goes out to the ocean, the perception has been that farms are these villains and they use all this water. Well, yeah, they use 80% of the developed water, but all that water that they use then goes right back into the communities, into the urban areas, as food, as fiber, as different things that people use on a day in and day out basis, to making sure that the people in the city also understand that just because if you live in the LA area, or you live in San Francisco, or you live in Sacramento, that is not, your world doesn't end around the edge of that city. That world expands to all of the farm ground around that supplies food, that supplies fiber for clothing, that supplies different byproducts that are used in your everyday life, and understanding that without farming, not to say that farming is the end all be all, but without farming, we would have to import food from other areas. We look at California. California is the breadbasket of the world. We make more food in California than any other place in this entire world. And by doing that, we're able to help Californians have any fruit and vegetable that they want at any time of the year that they want to have it. So without being able to do that, we would look at importing food from other countries, which then doesn't have the same regulations and the same standards that we have here in California. And those are one of the biggest things that would benefit, is just for everybody to take a step back and say, okay, how is my life impacted on a day-to-day basis by farms?
What is required, however, is a California-wide multi-pronged effort against the drought. City authorities, farmers, and academics throughout the state are all ultimately working to end the California water crisis, but there is still a need for a concerted effort towards water infrastructure, the combatement of global warming, reform to the economics of water, and increased gray and other water reuse. Infrastructure improvements plays a very crucial role in the process of solving the water shortage problem.
Always examining new technologies that can extend the life of our pipes. However, it would be inaccurate to state that we don't need to replace pipes at a faster rate. We do. We need to replace pipes at a faster rate. It's not as big an issue right now because the system, even though it's 100 years old, that's not that old for the system. Once the system is older, once the system is 200 and 300 years old, now you're coming up on life expectancies of pipe a lot more. And so your replacement rate needs to be a lot faster.
So when you look at cities and you look at the wastewater plants, a lot of cities, that wastewater just goes, once they treat it, goes down the creek. Whereas then you have some progressive cities that are utilizing that water to irrigate lawns, utilizing that water to wash cars, utilizing that water to do a bunch of different things after it's been used for drinking or flushing the toilet, for lack of a better term. Utilize that water in ways that can do other things other than just one use, one pass through, and out it goes. We need to look at ways to keep utilizing that water over and over and over again.
Gray water can be reused for other purposes besides drinking, instead of directly releasing it into the ocean. Instead, we should focus on the management of gray water for its cost effectiveness and accessibility.
Some people do that. They put in gray water systems in their homes. It's all usually regulated through your city planning office, and so that's how you get the permits to do that. And what we find is when people take action, one of our other rebate programs we have is like a rain barrel rebate program where you can collect stormwater. So what we want to do is encourage people to take those actions at home, because it puts you in that conservation mindset that we all have. And so it takes you to that next level of conservation. And that's what's so powerful about those things is, yes, you're recycling that water within your own home, but that also means you're really making a commitment to conservation, and you're doing everything you can to conserve the amount of water that you use. Because we know that those habits that you make today, the knowledge that you gain today, stays with you forever, and that you are going to continue to make Southern California a place that's growing and thriving and conserving and continuing that conservation lifestyle that we've all adopted here today.
Global warming has been a major contributor to the extremity of the drought. Experts from UCLA and JPL agree that efforts against climate change are necessary to ensure California's future water supply.
So the relationship between climate change and this drought is really interesting, because when we look back over the precipitation trends, as you've noted that precipitation varies a lot in California. There's no detectable trend in precipitation that you can attribute to climate change, at least not yet, not right now, when we talk about average precipitation. So we do not conclude that climate change contributed to the low precipitation that we got in the drought, but the way that climate change is contributing is that it's much hotter. It's been much hotter over the last couple of years than we would expect if there had been no human-caused climate change. And so those hotter conditions have made the drought worse by causing greater evaporation of water from soils and greater use of water by plants and agriculture. So water demand has really shot up. So it's not that it's drier because there's less precipitation because of climate change. It's drier because there are hotter conditions that are drying out the soils. So that's really what it's making the drought less severe.
Experts and citizens in widely differing fields have all called for economic changes and increased regulation to water allocation to encourage more efficient usage throughout the state. Many believe such innovations would lead to smarter water usage in metropolitan and rural areas alike.
And poor households, and so there should be some provision for those individuals, households, and communities. And so one solution would be to provide a very basic volume of water to every household at very low cost, and then to charge more for additional units. So if you want to have a big yard that's lush and green, if you want to wash your car in the driveway, if you want to have a swimming pool, those types of uses would be higher, more expensive uses of water. But that means we'd have a tiered rate structure. The first unit would be inexpensive, and then the more water you use, the price would go up.
The economist's solution to water regulation and allocation is to create a tier system, and to do so, a major change in laws and regulations is necessary. Improving LA's water infrastructure, reforming water economics, increasing gray water, and water reuse are all viable options to combat the LA water shortage individually, and together they could spell the end of our water crisis. But in reality, the LA water shortage can only be solved effectively when all of California's shareholders come together and create a multi-pronged, wholly encompassing solution. It is only when every constituent gets out of their bubble that we can truly come together and discuss methods to mitigate the drought. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing: to save water. But to save water, all our different bubbles and opinions have to merge into one common goal. And before that can happen, each one of us must be willing to open our eyes, be willing to care, and willing to try to save water through any means necessary. Because while water guarantees life in LA, conservation of it ensures our future.